These are the lesson 13.1 and 13.2 notes combined. 13.1 is a review of combining like terms from chapter 3. So we're going to go through that quickly. And then 13.2 is adding and subtracting linear equations or linear expressions, which is a tricky thing. So I want to be sure that we do a good job going through that. So from 13.1, we are identifying terms and like terms. Like terms, we should define terms first. Remember that terms are the parts of an expression. Terms are parts of an expression. They are separated by addition or subtraction. So this is a term, 9x. The addition or subtraction, you can think of it as a positive or negative sign that goes with the number or with the term. Okay, so this first one has 4 terms. And then when we're talking about what are like terms, they have the same variable and the same exponent. Now we'll look at the expression and find the like terms. So when I look across, I see a 9x. So like terms, those are things that are alike, right? So I've got a 9x. And then when I look across there, I see negative x or negative 1x. And then I see a negative 2 and a positive 7. You don't have to write the positive sign. Do you remember that these are constants? Constants are the numbers that don't have a variable attached. And then this is the coefficient and the variable. All right, let's do B. So the terms are all the things separated by the plus and minus. This one's positive 5z. That's negative 3z squared and positive z. And then when I look at the like terms, and then look across, z squared. That goes with negative 3z squared. So it can have a coefficient with it, but it has to be the same variable and it has to be raised to the same degree or have the same exponent. And then here I have 5z, and that goes with 1z. Okay. And then we move into simplifying an algebraic expression. You simplify expressions and you solve equations. Okay. So to simplify an expression, we're going to combine the like terms. So let's look at our terms. We have 3/4 y, and we have 12, and we have negative 1/2 y and negative 6. So the things that are alike are the 3/4 y and the negative 1/2 y. So let's use the commutative property and rearrange that so the like terms are together. So we'll put 3/4 y and the negative 1/2 y together. And then this was a positive 12 and a negative 6. Remembering that negative 6 or subtracting 6 is the same as negative 6. You can write it either way. All right, then I know I can do this in my head. I know that 3/4 minus 1/2 leaves me with 1/4 y. I can do that in my head, but if I had a fraction that had a tricky denominator or I needed to work it out on paper, I would just come over and do a little side work, and then I would put the answer underneath. And then plus 12 minus 6 is 6. Okay, let's check out the U tries. You should be okay with that. And you should be okay with that. It's got a decimal, but it's not tricky. And then here, just remember to find a common denominator before you try to combine the 3/8 b and the negative 3/4 b. Okay, in example 3, we are adding the distributive property. All right, so when you have the distributive property, remember that is when you have some number outside parentheses and it's being, let's throw a negative sign on there. Let's multiply it by 2n minus 4. When you distribute, that means that you have to distribute the 5 to everything in the parentheses. So we're going to do this, and we're going to do this. Negative 5 times negative 2n is negative 10n. And then negative 5 times negative 4 is positive 20. All right. Sometimes I change that to this. Change it to adding the opposite, and then I'm less likely to lose my sign. Negative 5 times negative 4 is positive 20. Okay, so when you have a distributive inside an expression, we want to distribute first. Okay, so the first thing we'll do, and I use the word of. When I'm working with a fraction, I like to use the word of because it helps me to know that I can do that in my head. If I want to say half of 6, half of 6 is 3. And don't forget your negative sign. So I've got negative 3n. And then I've got negative 1/2 times 4. Half of 4 is 2, and it was negative. A negative times a positive is negative. So minus 2. Half of 6, 3, half of, okay, there's no variable there. Then I am not distributing to the 2n because it is not inside the parentheses. Okay, so bring down the 2n. And then I can combine my like terms. So distribute first and then combine. So negative 3n combines with 2n to make negative 1n minus 2. All right, so distribute first and then combine. And then as we look at these U tries, this one should be okay, and this one should be okay. Don't forget your negative sign. But this one's a little tricky, and we'll look at more of these when we get into lesson 13.2, but I want to work this one with you because lots of times what happens is that kids forget to multiply, they forget to distribute the negative sign to everything inside the parentheses. So when I have problems like this, I really do think it's easier to write that as 7 plus negative 4 times this group, 3/4 x minus 1/4. And I think you're less likely to lose your sign. All right. So now let's go ahead and I'm going to bring that down. Let's distribute. So if I've got 4 times 3/4, I know that the 4s would cancel out and that would leave me with 3. If I had 3/4 times 4, I would have 3, and it's negative. Negative times a positive is negative. And then I have negative 4 times 1/4, or a fourth of 4. That's 1. And the negative times negative is positive. So it's positive 1. And then I need to combine my like terms. Did I lose a variable there? I did. I lost the x. All right. Any more? Okay. So then I can combine the 7 and the 1 to make 8. And then the negative 3x negative 3x plus 8. Okay. All right, and then we move into lesson 13.2, which just has some tricky stuff because we're going to be adding and subtracting linear equations, linear expressions. So a linear expression is an algebraic expression. That means it's one that has variables in it. And the exponent of the variable is 1. So these are all examples of linear expressions. The x is x to the first power. This is 3x to the first plus 5. Here's 1/6 x to the first. And these are not linear. It means if you graphed these, if you were to graph that, it would be a straight line. That's why it's called linear. These things are nonlinear. They have the variable raised to a different exponent. This one's squared, this one's cubed, this one's to the 5th power. So if you were to graph these, if you substitute in some numbers for x, and you get a y value, and then you plot a point, these would not make lines. They might make a parabola, they might make a hyperbola, they would make all kinds of different things. Okay? So when you add, you can do them two ways. We'll do an example for each way. Sometimes you can line them up vertically, and sometimes you line them up horizontally. When we get to chapter 5, and we are solving systems of equations, you will be lining them up vertically. Most of the rest of the time when you're just solving an equation, you're going to line them up horizontally. You may use whichever strategy makes best sense to you, but we'll do examples both ways. So to find this sum, if you're going to line them up, we'll take this unit and we will subtract. So we got x minus 2, and we're adding on to that 3x plus 8. So I have the like terms stacked on top of one another. And now I've got x plus 3x is 4x, and negative 2 plus 8 is positive 6. All right, so you just want to line it up so the like terms are together. And then we have this one, we're going to work horizontally. So I've got 4 minus n. I'm just going to bring that down. But then I have to distribute this 2 to everything in the parentheses. It's a positive 2, so that makes it a little easier. So we're going to do 2 times negative 5 is negative 10n. And the 2 times 3, positive 2 times positive 3, is positive 6. And then I can combine my like terms. This is a negative n, and this is a negative 10n. So if I have negative n plus negative 10n, I will have negative 11n. And then I have a positive 4 plus a positive 6 is positive 10. Okay, and then the subtracting is where it gets really tricky. Okay, so again, we will do one vertically and we'll do the other one horizontally. There's a nice little trick with this. I'm not sure I'm going to show it to you now. We might wait until we're with a different section. All right, so let's line these up. 5x plus 6. And then we're going to subtract negative x plus 6. Okay, so what happens is this is very tricky, right? You've got this negative out here and then the negative in here, and it makes it really hard to work. So we're going to change that. Instead of trying to subtract a negative, we're going to make this into addition. So we're going to change it to 5x plus 6 plus, and now we're going to distribute this negative sign to everything inside, meaning we're going to flip all the signs over. So I'm going to change it to a positive x and a negative 6. And now I can add. Okay, that was the little trick. Instead of trying to say 5x minus negative 6, well, 5x minus negative 6, that's 6, but it's much easier to say 5x plus 6 is 6x. And then instead of trying to say 6 minus 6 like this, we're going to do 6 minus 6 is 0. Right, so it just leaves 6x. We'll do this a lot when we are solving systems of equations. All right, and then the horizontal one is similar to what you did before. You've got 7y plus 5. You can bring that down. And here you just have to remember that you are distributing this negative 2. The negative has to be distributed to everything. So I've got negative 2 times 4y is negative 8y. And negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6. And then we combine the like terms. I've got a 7y. Let's just rearrange things. 7y minus 8y. And the 5, it's a positive, goes with the 6. 7y minus 8y, that's a negative y. And 5 plus 6 is 11. I want to look back and make sure that okay. And let's look at the U-tries and see if there's anything. Just be very careful, all right? There's sign errors are the most common difficulty. Check your sign, check your sign, check your sign. That should be okay because it's addition. You have a little fraction to multiply, but they all go evenly, so that shouldn't be too bad. Be really careful when you're working with the subtraction that you distribute the negative to everything in the parentheses. You've got a negative times a negative times a positive. Or you can line them up vertically, but you still have to change the signs. All right, this one's super tricky. This one's double tricky because you've got a negative sign there and a negative sign there.